What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Almighty Will TV. Thanks for tuning in. Today, I'm going to be talking to you guys about my experience with Chinese. I don't know if you follow me on Instagram, but if you do, you'll see that I've recently restarted taking Chinese classes, and I want to give a little bit more background on that. So, without further ado, here we go. So, I'm just going to jump right into high school, is where I initially got exposed to Chinese classes, Chinese language. So it wasn't really my first choice. My first choice was actually Japanese because when I was younger, I lived in Japan for a few years. My father was in the military, so I had the whole military brat upbringing. And I was like, I never learned it there, so when I come back here, I wanted to learn it. That didn't work out because my high school discontinued the program. So I ended up saying, hey, you know what? Chinese is the next best thing. And I just hopped on it. But I'm happy that I made that decision because after I started learning the language, getting familiar with the characters, and learning that there's actually a story behind each character, the way that it's written, and things like that. And it was just fascinating to me. So I was like, you know what? I like this language. And not only that, it was just very motivating to do something that was different than what everybody else was doing. Most people study Spanish, French, those kind of things. And for me, it just wasn't my interest. So having something different that was also interesting was like a bonus to me, so to say. So I did my 2 years in high school doing Chinese, and I just really fell in love with it. And by the time I got to college, after a 4-year break, I was like, I kind of have all these words stuck in my head, but I don't really remember as much as I should or, wish I did at the time. So it kind of had me a little down. So all of a sudden, while I'm on campus, I start noticing that there's like this influx of Chinese speaking students. I say Chinese speaking students because at the time I didn't know if they were from China or Taiwan, or honestly I didn't even know like the difference. So I started seeing them on campus, and I said, hey, let me reach out to them to try to study my Chinese and practice a bit and see what I can remember. And it was embarrassing. So I was like, I need to get back into this, but Frostburg at the time didn't have a Chinese class, and I don't know if they have one now, but they definitely didn't have one when I was there. So luckily for me, I ended up transferring to the University of Maryland, UMD, where I immediately picked up Chinese classes, and I got immersed. And the classes were pretty intense. I had classes daily, so I had classes Monday through Friday for an hour, and then I also had classes Tuesdays and Thursdays for an hour and 15 hour and a half, can't remember. But just that whole experience getting integrated into the language and moving kind of closer to that goal of just learning the language and getting good at it was very exciting for me. So much so that I eventually went to China, like in Beijing, and I studied there for 4 months. And not only did I get improvement in the language, but I developed a sense of fluency where I can do basic tasks, I can have basic conversations, I can ask for directions. I mean, I could live literally in China and have no problem. So after that experience, I really had another sense of interest, another sense of motivation for the language. Now it's more so like, oh yeah, it's not just like a language that I learn, it's almost like a lifestyle for me. And it's something that I've been trying to integrate into my life for the past few years. And I don't know if it's because it's difficult or just because it's different or just because it's something that I identify by now, that it's become more than a hobby and more of something that is a part of me. So now I'm back into the point where I'm taking my classes and I'm moving further from where I am, where I was. So now it's more like, okay, now I'm living it. And I made the investment. So I have a Chinese tutor right now because I don't have any access to my Chinese friends, and it's pretty difficult to try to just go up to a stranger and start a conversation. So I'm taking online lessons with a teacher about 3 times a week to just keep up with the language, keep things going. And I'm actually studying for the HSK5, which is a Chinese language proficiency test. And the Chinese HSK5 is the second highest level, the highest being HSK6. So that is one of my 2020 goals, to take and pass that test. And I'll be documenting and seeing how far I can get. And hopefully, by the time 2020 is over, I'll have an update with you guys for how that went. So that's all I really had on that. I just wanted to give you guys more background on my interest, my motivation for learning Chinese, and how that applies to my life in general. So thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions, shoot me a line. You can shoot me a comment, or if you have me on Instagram, Facebook, go ahead and reach out to me, and I'll do my best to respond. Thanks.
Perfect. Perfect.